reasons. Once you have borrowed, one, it's the fact that you did borrow, and you have to pay. Debt is due, and you've got to pay. So you have to do it. But second, the government of Tanzania and other governments of these highly indebted poor countries feel if you don't pay, you don't borrow anymore. So you pay in order to qualify for borrowing. Actually, you pay in order to increase your capacity to increase your debt. Yes. Yes. And that is one of the real problems about paying debt. You pay not to reduce debt, but you pay in order to qualify for more debt. Because you need the resources. Somebody put the question to me, Mwalimu, can we default? I said, no, you can't default. How can you default? You need the money. And all these governments, including the Tanzania government, have no choice. They must squeeze themselves and pay in order to earn the respectability to borrow more. And so it's a problem. And the donor community knows better than some of you people do. The Tanzania government, this thing called 35% of government revenue, which government pays, does not represent the full debt due. Every year, the government should pay X. If they pay fully, well, they don't. They can't pay X. So they pay X minus. And it is that X minus that takes that 35%. If they paid 100% of the debt due, it would take more. I don't know how much it would take. It might even take. Actually, it might. I don't know how much it would take. But when you consider what the fact which is brought out by the Oxfam paper, debt from the multilateral institutions is about 40%. From the Paris Club lenders is about 41% or something like that. Debt to the multilateral countries institutions is sacred. You must not touch it. You must pay. Once it is due, I think within 60 days or something like that, it jolly well have to be paid. And that is what Tanzania basically is paying. That debt to the World Bank and the IMF. Basically, that's what it's paying. I did put the question. I don't know whether I got the proper answer. Is it ever, this debt to the international financial institutions, is it ever rescheduled? I don't know whether rescheduled. You don't reschedule. Somebody who knows very well shakes her head there and says it's never rescheduled. So that you pay. Paris Club, where you are dealing with the bilateral lenders, that can be rescheduled. And that, for some time now, Tanzania has not actually been paying fully. I think they pay just a bit of it. So consider what would happen. These debts are virtually equal, 40%, 41%, virtually equal. Consider what would be happening if Tanzania was paying both on the 40% of the IMF and the World Bank and the international financial institutions and the Paris Club. It would be taking some 60, possibly 60% of government revenue. For all the poorly indebted countries, they all qualify. They are highly indebted poor countries. They should qualify for either a drastic reduction in the stock of debt, and which then would enable them to, and make the remaining debt payable in sustainable pay, or simply agree, cut it out and let's start again. I'm told that the problem the donors fear is precedence. The precedence, they don't like to set a precedence of wiping out debt for this country. Debt has undermined the need to borrow under circumstances like the Tanzania circumstances, undermined the capacity of government to decide. It's gone. There is very little of it, and it's. We were poor then. We are still poor now. I could say no in those days. It's very difficult to say no now. Very, very difficult. Very difficult. I don't want to blame debt, but I'm saying there it is. It's no use saying, how did we get there? We are there. It's really no good simply saying, well, how did you get there? Well, we borrowed, as His Excellency, the ambassador says. We borrowed. But in my case, we could say, because we borrowed, in my case. I said, in 1988, I was in Brazil. This is the final point I'm going to make. I was in Brazil in 1998. And we were talking about the huge debt of Brazil. So I said, well, I was then traveling in my capacity as chairman of the South Commission. I then said, well, I bother very much about the debts of Brazil and Mexico and Argentina. What about Tanzania? So I came back. On my way back, I asked Treasury, what is our debt? 1988, so 10 years ago. And they said, $3 billion. 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Today, it is nearly $8 billion. The figure we got, the figure here used, I think, is $7.93 billion. So it's, call it $8 billion. It does not represent money borrowed. Not all of it. Not all of it. A lot of it is arrears. So you pay, the government pays what it can pay. I say, you owe X, you don't pay X. You pay X minus. That minus accumulates. So that debt, yes, it defines partly what you have borrowed, but partly what you have failed to pay. When you fail, that failure becomes debt.